Reborn from betrayal, our hero gains a terrifying ability. Whatever he imagines manifests into reality. For example, a group of exceptionally powerful individuals, tasked with protecting the world from the most fearsome monsters. They are Ingolf Fandits. To stop this, the other members of the Golden Seekers united and fought him to prevent this from occurring. After defeating Misato, the remaining members of the Golden Seekers renamed themselves the Pentagram Saints, and after a fierce struggle, they sealed the dungeon and saved the world. This false narrative is now common knowledge that the entire world believes, and the Pentagram Saints have risen to lead the world in many different sectors. Misato shuts off the news, staring out the window in shock. The shock then turns to uncontrollable laughter as he finally understands what transpired while he was gone. They didn't just betray him, they also dragged his name and dignity through the mud. They used him as a sacrifice and shamelessly reaped the rewards. In the end, they are now hailed by the world as heroes while he was left to rot. With this new knowledge, he is definitely not going to forgive them. He now must ensure that every single one of them goes to hell. But he has to calm himself down before he does something reckless. He cannot get detected by them, being far too weak to take them on, as he is right now. Claudia Bourgeois, Nathaniel Cavell, Iwako Hideki, and Leruaki. The first thing he must figure out is where they are and how he can get to them. He takes the boy's phone and scans through it, trying to find out which academy he attends. Just as he suspected, he attends Toko Adventurer Training Academy, which is run by one of the Pentagram Saints, Iwako Hide. He just woke up, and now he has already located one of the saints so easily. Iwako is a cautious man, though, not the type of person who would just reveal his weaknesses so easily. On top of that, the difference in their levels is simply too great. Beating him as he is now is practically impossible. His path forward is like a dark level-up manhwa. He must focus on becoming stronger. He can't do anything at level 1, but once he grows to an acceptable range, he will make sure that Iwako is the very first target. A few weeks pass, and Misato is finally fully recovered and preparing to be discharged. The doctor can't believe he made such a speedy recovery despite his severe injuries. He starts to think that Misato was once again blessed by the saints, but our protagonist cuts him off before he can finish that thought. These 5 heroes wield their powers to vanquish any monster that sets foot in the human world. But they don't always hold the best interests of the human population at heart. He wants the doctor to know for certain that everything he has achieved was thanks to his own power. With that, he leaves the hospital. Bidding a final farewell to the doctor. As he walks out, the bare-bones preparations for his dark plan are complete, and he's ready to escalate. He has also successfully raised his level to 27. It's time for a warm-up, to test his newfound abilities by entering a dungeon. Before leaving the hospital, he'd learned from the doctor that all of Kyoske's family perished in an accident. Tragic for Kyoske, but for Misato, this simplifies things immensely. Now he can do whatever he wants without having to worry about anyone questioning his brutal actions. The moment he steps out of the hospital, he heads to the nearest dungeon gate to begin his first grim adventure. He must ensure that he levels up and grows stronger as fast as possible. Having boosted his level by healing himself, it's time to test his new skills in actual, bloody combat. He approaches the stall by the gate where a security guard grants entry, and he presents his student ID card. As a civilian is cornered by a monster, Ingolf orders Claudia to intervene and help the victims. The guard grabs his arm, stopping him before he can proceed toward the gate. He's concerned about Misato entering the dungeon at only level 27. This place is where adventurers must be at least level 30 to even form parties to enter. Despite the strict rules, Misato intends to enter the dungeon solo, an act the guard sees as a death wish. That would be true for anyone with a normal class. But Misato is a student from the Tokyo Adventurer Training Academy, which grants him special permissions to enter this place, regardless of the danger. As long as he signs a consent form, it should be fine for him to enter without restriction. He anticipated this exact scenario when he approached the dungeon gate, so he researched the special privileges afforded to him as a student of the academy, and this is one of many. The guard has no choice but to let him pass. But that doesn't quell the guard's worry. A few voices call out to him from across the compound. A group of thuggish-looking kids tells Misato the guard is just worried about him, but she callously refuses to move. It seems the man is about to be seized by an ogre, so he shouldn't take it personally. After all, he's just a weak student who hasn't even graduated from the academy. He should know his place. Misato gives them a single glance before turning around and asking the guard where he needs to sign. He scrawls his signature and leaves to enter the dungeon after confirming there will be no further issues. The guard watches our MC depart, then calls out to the kids from earlier and tells them to head into the dungeon and follow Misato. He can't shake the feeling that letting a kid walk in there alone is basically sending him to his grave. At first, they argue with the guard, unwilling to risk their own necks for someone they don't even know. But the leader of the group silences his friends from making a fuss. This situation might just benefit them in the end. If no one is watching them inside the dungeon, they can go in there and do as they please. If something unfortunate were to happen in the shadows, there would be no problems or consequences. His friends instantly grasp his dark meaning, and they eagerly rush into the dungeon to follow Misato. But the monster's face is caved in by the final member and leader of the Golden Seekers. Misato Kio smiles. Now they can make him pay for his arrogance in attempting a dungeon far beyond his level, which should be far above his level. The guard cheerfully sends them off, completely unaware of their true intentions. This isn't the first time they have done this. They eliminate the people that make their way into the dungeon and then pin the blame on the monsters. Thanks to that, they can line their pockets handsomely, and no one is the wiser about it. With this in mind, they continue chasing Misato, but 10 minutes of running later, they still haven't caught up to him. The dungeon is a straight path, so it's impossible for them to have lost him. At this point, they have no idea how he has gotten so far ahead. Eventually, they finally catch up to him, seeing him surrounded by a wall of monsters. At first, they think they won't have to get their hands dirty. The monsters will take care of him for them. But Misato proves them wrong, using fire magic combined with wind magic to kill all the monsters in a matter of seconds. They are shocked that he managed to kill so many D-ranked monsters at once, as he tells everyone he'll handle the remaining monsters himself. But they are also more interested in the massive loot drops that came from the monsters. If they sell that loot, then they can live comfortably for at least 6 months. Misato's back is still turned, so they think that he hasn't noticed them yet. This is the perfect time for them to spring an attack and kill him, so they can claim the rare loot drop. The three spring into action and surround him. Then, all at once, they unleash their magic at him. Misato finally turns and gives them his attention, skillfully dodging all their attacks without wasting a second. He's used to these kinds of betrayals from his past life. No matter what era it is, there's always scum that tries to take what belongs to someone else. Since he dodged all their long-range attacks, one of them charges up a fireball and goes in close to take down Misato with a magically enhanced punch. Misato is quicker, however, and charges his fist with ice, which he uses to punch the attacker square in the stomach, sending him flying back to his friends. The goon is taken down in a second and left to writhe on the ground while Misato approaches the rest, who are now cowering in fear. He then leaps off after making sure everyone is safe and charges a massive energy blast in his hand, using it to tear through the monsters like a human wrecking ball. In this new life, he won't be as merciful as he used to be. He plans to crush anyone that gets in his way, and then use them as a stepping stone to his next goal without hesitation. Everything that he will do from now on is all for the sake of his revenge. With the goons handled, Misato leaves the dungeon completely unharmed. But the disappearance of the boys causes a teacher from the academy to come and check on what occurred. The man is a subordinate of Iwako, Yoichi, and he got news that one of his students entered the dungeon alone. Instead of finding his student struggling, he instead finds 3 novice hunter adventurers lying lifeless on the ground. But there are no clues to explain what in the world transpired in the dungeon. Back with Misato, he looks through his new stats now that he managed to conquer the dungeon. Thanks to clearing the D-rank dungeon, he was able to level up and test out his void magic at the same time. Now he has gained a new spell called Info Obscurity, which allows him to not only fake his level, but also erase his dungeon entry records. Thanks to that, eradicating them all instantly, the others can only watch in awe as he single-handedly takes out the massive horde of monsters alone. He can wipe any clues from the D-rank dungeon that could lead back to him. Now that he has moved on from that, tomorrow is his first day at the academy, and his first trial awaits. He delves into Kyoske's phone, discovering unread messages from his tormentors. A digital trail of violent extortion and abuse. It perfectly explains the broken state in which he found the boy. The next day, he heads to school. As he walks through the front gate, the ghosts of Kyoske's past converge on him. A concerned classmate, Asahi Karin, rushes over. She seems to be a rare bright spot in Kyoske's dark world, asking how he's recovering from the hospitalization. It appears that even in his despair, Kyoske had someone who cared. But as they talk, a pack of vultures descends to confront him. They immediately start taunting Kyoske for being attributeless, clearly aware that he just barely escaped death's door. These are without a doubt the predators from his phone. Their leader steps forward, a smug look on his face as he demands Kyoske pay their protection fee. The air grows heavy. A confrontation is now unavoidable. But this strength is expected. After all, with his time magic, Karen steps between them, trying to shield him, reminding the thugs that Kyoske was just discharged. Although she projects bravery, her trembling hands betray her terror. Seeing this, our protagonist steps forward. He moves in front of her, assuring her everything will be fine. The bullies just laugh, thinking he's putting on a show for the girl. Since he's so eager to be a hero, they are more than happy to remind him of his place in the school's food chain. Unfortunately for them, they don't realize that hierarchy has been shattered. Misato has taken over. He made a vow to the boy whose body he inhabits, to forge his name into a legend as the world's strongest adventurer. And Misato is a man who always keeps his promises. He baits the lead bully with a simple taunt, and it works flawlessly, provoking him to cast a spell at Misato. Using magic outside of a dungeon is strictly forbidden, but these thugs have abandoned all pretense of rules. They need to teach the attributeless boy a lesson. A fireball hurtles toward Misato. To mend a fatal wound, he need only picture it closed. To forge the perfect body, no training is ever needed. He can see the future. He always knows a monster's next move. At this level of power, Misato is no longer human, but he simply returns the attack in kind, countering with a much larger fireball. The two spells collide in a brilliant explosion. The bullies can only stare, wondering when Kyoske learned to use magic. Misato is completely unfazed by the weak attack, and the bully screams at his cronies to stop standing around like NPCs and attack. His two lackeys unleash wind and water spells at Misato, but just like their leader's attack, Misato counters them with similar magic, but on a far grander scale. They can't comprehend how someone once attributeless is now wielding multiple elements. It's an impossible power spike, like a scene from a level-up manhwa, and this is just the beginning. He was merely nullifying their attacks with their own power. Now, it's his turn to strike back. He conjures an immense fireball behind him, an overwhelming show of force that causes them to finally break and run away in terror. As he advances, Misato snatches the closest one, who's screaming for help as he tries to escape. He coldly asks the boy if he offered Kyoske any help when he was the one begging. Without waiting for an answer, within mere minutes, the monster army lies slain in the streets, and Misato confronts the last one. He seizes him by the face, hoisting him into the air as a searing fireball ignites in his other hand. There's no need to listen. Pathetic cowards like him always spout the same tired excuses anyway. So, no matter what garbage he spews, it won't stop Kyoske's fist from smashing into his face. With that, he unleashes a brutal blow on the boy, sending him flying and leaving him unconscious on the academy courtyard. Karen can hardly believe this is the same Kyoske from before, but it's obvious that something in him has changed. Kyoske is no longer prey for nobodies. This is his dark level-up manhwa arc beginning. He's on the path to becoming the strongest adventurer. Now that they've seen his power, the bullies desperately start begging for their lives. They carry their fallen friend and limp their way out of the courtyard, still shocked that Kyoske seems a completely different person after being discharged from the hospital. Kyoske sighs in disappointment. After all that talk, it falls just as easily as the others, and Misato finally relaxes, knowing he has protected the people's peace. The bully wasn't all he was cracked up to be. He walks with Karen into the school, and it's clear all the students saw what he did in the courtyard. They all stare and whisper to themselves as he walks past. Kyoske notices the stares, and wonders if he stood out too much by showing off like that. As he walks with Karen, someone tries to cut through the crowd to reach him before he can enter his class. It's Yoichi, and he approaches Kyoske to ask some questions before class. Kyoske has no idea who this guy is, but he looks like an upperclassman. It would definitely be a pain to deal with him, and he decides to shrug off the invitation to chat. He turns around and says that they can't talk now as class is about to start, but Yoichi isn't going to take no for an answer. He introduces himself as the leader of Biting the Cat, which is a clan that Principal Iwako created for the school. That catches Kyoske's attention immediately, and his hand freezes as he's about to open the door. Seeing that he has our hero's attention, he asks again whether Kyoske would be willing to have a brief chat and spare some of his time. Since the context has changed, all that remains is to seal the gate, preventing more monsters from emerging. Just as he seals the gate, Kyoske happily agrees to have the chat with his upperclassmen. They find a secluded place to chat, and Yoichi gets straight to the point. He asks Kyoske if he is the one who defeated the adventurers that were found taken out in the D-rank dungeon. Our hero plays dumb, but on the inside, he's wondering how the information he specially concealed got out. Yoichi says that he heard from staff that a student of his academy had entered the dungeon, and he went in to investigate. And inside the dungeon, he found the bodies of the infamous criminals known for hunting novices. On top of that, not even 10 minutes ago, Kyoske used multiple attributes to fight his fellow students. While all of those are true, the way Yoichi presents his evidence means he doesn't really know the specifics of our hero's magic. And he also has no proof that he really was the one who took out those novice adventurers. Yoichi gets more aggressive and orders Kyoske to spit it out and admit to what he did, but our hero remains calm and tells him that this morning he only acted in self-defense, so he doesn't fully know what happened. A blast hurls him into the dungeon, trapping him behind his own seal. His 5 teammates watch, then he reaches into his jacket and pulls out the student ID card that he altered to show a fake level. The ID card says that he's just level 1. It's a massive bluff, and if you're curious about how it plays out, consider subscribing and letting us know your theories in the comments, which means he lacks the power to commit the acts he's being accused of. On top of that, he also has the Void attribute, a notoriously useless trait that's as good as having no power at all. The fact that Kyoske is a nobody wasting his time infuriates Yoichi, and he turns to leave, apologizing for summoning him for no reason. Before leaving, he warns Kyoske to avoid acting suspiciously so that he doesn't cause trouble for his seniors. Kyoske watches the upperclassman leave with a smirk. It looks like he has found a useful piece for his future plans. If he gets Yoichi under his thumb, then the senior can approach Iwako without the principal growing wary. The next step is to figure out a way to make Yoichi his pawn. This is the perfect time to test an experimental spell he has been developing for a while. Meanwhile, Yoichi goes to meet Principal Iwako to report the incident in the D-rank dungeon. From outside the dungeon, utterly indifferent. Even with his temporal abilities, he had never foreseen a future like this. Iwako listens silently before reminding Yoichi that it is unusual for him to make mistakes, He has warned his subordinate several times that he must be careful in choosing who to use. Yoichi apologizes for his failure and bows to the principal, promising to resolve the situation as soon as possible. Iwako walks toward his subordinate as he continues to bow, reminding him that if word gets out he worked with those who prey on novices, then the backlash will also reach the principal, a pentagram saint. He then grabs the student's face and tells him that if he continues to make mistakes like these, he will be discarded in a heartbeat. Yoichi bows his head lower and tells the older man that he understands. On the outside, he appears polite and submissive. But inside, Yoichi is seething that he must deal with this old man. If he had known things would end up like this, he would have tried to squeeze more hush money from the rookie hunters. Now that the major things are discussed, Iwako still doesn't fully believe Yoichi's story. According to the report he gave, he approaches the seal, asking if they were all complicit in this wretched plan and why they would do this to him. The student who caused this whole mess should be at least a third-year student. But no third-year student entered that dungeon recently, based on the records. What Iwako suspects is a monster defeated the group, while they were busy preying on novices, and now Yoichi is desperately trying to cover it all up. Rather than thinking one of the academy students could beat hunters alone, a tale from a level-up manhwa, it's more realistic that Yoichi is just lying to save face. The only way Iwako could be wrong is if something truly unusual happened. Yoichi immediately remembers the void attribute student from earlier. He asks Iwako if it is possible for a unique attribute to be involved in this mess. While plausible, it is also highly unlikely, and Iwako doesn't buy it. Yoichi has heard what he needs to know and tells the principal to leave it with him. He will find the root cause of the matter and deal with it swiftly, and he knows that Kyoske is exactly where he must start. The next day, a group of students are having a training course in a dungeon. They all unleash their magic on the monsters. For them, the answer is simple, but some of them are far too strong, leaping over the students to attack them. The students desperately run away as Yoichi, he darts past them, blasting the monster's back with potent magic, felling it. He calmly instructs the students to hold formation, to remain composed and orderly. They marvel at Yoichi's sheer prowess, and it's no surprise he was chosen by Principal Iwako to lead Biting the Cat. Now that all the threats in the area are neutralized, he leaves the dungeon clearing to the students and departs to handle a personal matter. Now that the trivialities are settled, it's time for him to address his true purpose here. He pulls a trinket from his pocket, activating it to reveal Kyo's current location. The charm glows, then points deeper into the dungeon, far away from the other students. Just as Yoichi suspected, something is definitely wrong with Kyo, and he is determined to know the truth. This is far better for him. No one would question the death of a student who strayed from the group. It's because his obsession with ensuring everyone is safe constantly put their team in danger. He became a level 100 monster who wields time attribute magic. He will simply report finding Kyoske already dead deeper within the dungeon. Tragedies like this are a common occurrence, and he won't lose any sleep over it. The more Yoichi considers the strange student, the more he's sure that there is something he needs to uncover. First, the incident with the novice hunters, and after that, it was nothing but trouble since his hospital discharge. The thugs Kyoske thrashed also told a rather interesting story he needs to verify. When he interrogated them, they begged for forgiveness, claiming the boy with no attributes took them all on at once, using multiple types of magic to attack. Not only that, after mimicking their magic, he unleashed a huge flame, like nothing they had ever seen before. The tale is too absurd for Yoichi to believe. Like a plot from a cheap level-up manhwa, he's sure they are lying. Once he finished getting what he needed, he left them, while his team merely wanted to make money. Now, they've grown tired of him, but not before telling his subordinates to re-educate them and ensure they learn the academy has no place for weaklings who lose to people that are incompetent. He walks away as the boys cry for mercy. The matter is decided, and he won't be changing his mind. One of the bullies, the most grievously injured among them, speaks up before he can leave. This is the same one Kyoske hit with a devastating, fire-charged punch. He warns Yoichi that Kyoske has long since stopped being human and possesses a whole different level of power. The terror in his eyes is definitely not something that can be faked. And to be certain, Yoichi had Kyoske put in a special class, hosted by Biting the Cat. Instead of showing off the things the boys claimed, he just created powerful illusions, which isn't half as impressive as what they alleged he could do. It's more likely Kyoske used some magic item during their fight, and is just a weak, non-attribute, unworthy of any attention. He's also sure our MC must have used some underhanded method to handle the novice hunters, too. As he walks deeper into the dungeon, only pure imagination. To wield any elemental magic, he just imagines the spell being cast. And it is time for them to seal him away, to focus on conquering the world, not protecting its people. With that, his world ends. He begins to notice monster corpses littering the area. These monsters were almost certainly defeated by Kyoske, and it seems they were defeated by a single hit of fire. Seeing the evidence before him makes Yoichi think that maybe those boys were not just exaggerating after all. But the power level he sees is still no big deal for him, and he walks deeper into the dungeon to find his target. Even Iwako, the pentagram dropout, could surely manage something at this level of power. Speaking of Iwako, Yoichi must obey him for now. But one day, the leader of Biting the Cat plans to surpass the old man and take his place as a pentagram saint himself. From there, he can then proceed to rule the world. Just the thought of it makes him laugh maniacally. That aside, he cannot let anyone learn of his connection to the novice hunters. Kyoske is also another thorn in his side that is likely to cause him more trouble in the future. To ensure no small accidents affect his grand plan, he has to make certain that Kyoske is taken care of as soon as possible. The chains lead him to a dead end in the dungeon. The team walks away, laughing at the man they've condemned to die. Misato pounds the seal, demanding rescue, and he is sure that his target should be right around the corner. He reaches the room and turns the corner, wondering what on earth Kyoske could possibly be doing here. His question is soon answered as he sees the student calmly resting on a pile of monster corpses, as if he were waiting for Yoichi. The moment he turns the corner, Kyoske scolds him for being so late and keeping him waiting. Yoichi can barely believe what he is seeing. After all, his presence should have been completely concealed, but it is clear Kyoske was patiently waiting for him this entire time. His mind starts to race as he wonders how Kyoske noticed his presence. But our MC parrots his thoughts perfectly before he can even finish thinking. On top of being powerful to an unknown degree, it looks like our MC can even read thoughts now. This is another problem for Yoichi to worry over, as he tries to figure out who he is facing off against. With no reason to hide anymore, Yoichi steps out and directly asks Kyoske what exactly he is. Kyoske doesn't answer, and instead compliments Yoichi on being someone personally chosen by Iwako. But they don't spare him a single glance as they disappear. He can't fathom their betrayal for such selfish reasons. But then, he also says that feat is not something he should see as a big deal. The way he hunted down novices and extorted money from them is a cowardly act, just like his mentor, Iwako. That's something that no one should know. But it's clear Kyoske has his upperclassmen all figured out. Then our MC jumps down from the corpse pile to confront his senior directly. He knows that Yoichi seems to enjoy tormenting others, but that is only because he has never understood how it feels to be the one hunted. Now that he has decided to cross Kyoske, our MC will be more than happy to teach him what it feels like to be hunted. And by the end of it, he will use his magic to make Yoichi dance. After everything he has seen today, Yoichi can now confirm it for himself. Kyoske has become someone incredibly dangerous that he simply can't ignore. He activates a sword with fire magic and prepares to go into battle with the powerful student. For the sake of his own ambition, he will do his best to defeat Kyoske at all costs. Without wasting a second, Yoichi pushes off the ground, charging straight towards our MC and unleashing a devastating strike. When all his efforts were to protect the world from monsters, Kyoske dodges it effortlessly, and he is not at all impressed by Yoichi's weak level of skill. He then returns the attack, charging a fireball and blasting it right back at Yoichi. The senior student cleaves through the flame with his sword, equally unimpressed with Kyoske's skill. It is clear both are holding back against each other, and the real battle is just beginning. As soon as the flame vanishes, lightning arcs toward him, and he barely manages to block it with his blade. Then, sharp spikes erupt from the earth below, but he slices them all apart in an instant, with a few swift sword strikes. This confirms Kyoske can wield multiple magic attributes at once. It seems something unheard of is happening with his void magic. While he's processing this, Kyoske dashes behind him with an ice sword, lunging for a backstab, but Yoichi is just quick enough to react in time and block it. Now, suddenly, the upperclassman is on the defensive, forced back by a stronger and faster Kyoske. He simply can't understand why they do this after everything they had been through, and he doesn't have the time to figure it out. The leader of Biting the Cat is now growing irritated. Ever since Kyoske appeared from nowhere, he has done nothing but interfere with Yoichi's plans. Kyoske has no idea what he's talking about, as he doesn't even know the upperclassman's plans. His plan is quite simple. He wants to one day become the one who surpasses Iwako. After doing that, he will take Iwako's place as a pentagram saint. Kyoske has no idea why he would choose Iwako, since there are other pentagram saints. But the reason is simple. It is because Iwako is a pentagram saint dropout. If Yoichi plans to become a saint, it makes sense for him to target the weakest one. And once he becomes one of them, he will earn the right to rule the world. Kyoske is unimpressed by the simple plan, a trope from a bad level-up manhwa. He thought Yoichi got to Iwako first, but it seems the upperclassman only has a pathetic ambition. There's no need for him to worry about someone so pointless stealing his destiny to end Iwako. This unwanted criticism enrages Yoichi. As dungeon monsters notice, he is trapped inside and begins swarming towards him, and he charges at Kyoske with new vigor, their swords clashing violently. Yoichi just wants power, money, and women to be easily accessible in his life. He wants the power where no matter how much he tramples on others, no one can say a thing. If he becomes a pentagram saint, he can do whatever he wants, and he might even get a hold of Saint Tessa's weakness, and maybe he can go on to claim her as well. Kyoske is tired of hearing the delusions of his power-hungry opponent and prepares to end this battle. With a swift flick of his sword, he sends Yoichi flying backward, the force strong enough to shatter the upperclassman's sword. On top of that, Yoichi's meaningless monologue gave Kyoske enough time to prepare a special magic spell. Yoichi cowers in fear as Kyoske closes in and tells him to dance. Then, he places a palm near Yoichi's face, using his void magic to cast absolute hypnosis. The spell requires breaking the target's spirit first, but once it is activated, it will grant Kyoske complete control over his opponent's will. He orders Yoichi to get up and Misato instinctively turns to fight back, but is met by a wall of hungry, powerful monsters. He uses his future vision. In an instant, he rises to his feet like a puppet. The spell was a success. He had captured Yoichi under his absolute control. He then gives his new puppet orders to focus on completing the dungeon mission for the sake of the class. Later, he will receive further instructions on what to do. Finally, Kyoske tells him to go back to his normal tone, as his current one is too robotic. With that, Yoichi returns, but now he is completely under Kyoske's control. As the man walks off, Kyoske lets out a devious smile before returning to his group. Making his way through the dungeon, he's found by Karen, who has been searching for him for a while. She was worried since he suddenly vanished from the group without a trace. Kyoske puts on his best smile and apologizes for his sudden disappearance. He tells her that he just went to speak with Yoichi about something, which shocks her, as she didn't know he and Yoichi were so close, and she asks what they discussed. He tells her they were just discussing how to make their dreams come true, and he got some excellent advice, seeking a path to survive, but every single timeline ends with his unavoidable death. The advice was so great that, in fact, one of his dreams has already come true. Their conversation is cut short by the group of students exiting the dungeon. The special class is about to end, and all students must report back to the group before they depart. Karen turns to head back to the group and tells Kyoske to follow her. Everything is going exactly according to his plan. He has acquired a pawn that Iwako would never suspect. Yoichi returns to give a progress report on his investigation into the person who attacked the novice hunters. He tells Iwako the attacker is a student with a unique attribute, like a hero from a level-up manhwa, just as he suspected. The student is Kyoske, a first year with the void attribute. Yoichi claims that he is holding Kyoske captive at the usual torture spot and is also interrogating the first year to dig out information. That's how the student admitted to using multi-attribute magic. This catches Iwako's attention, and he asks what Yoichi means by multi-attribute magic. The specifics are currently unknown. It seems his future has been erased. This is truly the end. But Misato refuses to go down like a coward. But Yoichi requests more time to uncover what hidden secrets Kyoske has. On top of that, it's been a while since the principal has had any hands-on time with their subjects. Yoichi asks Iwako if he'd like to be in charge of the students' torture and interrogation. This sort of thing isn't usually something Iwako would concern himself with, but just this once wouldn't be so bad for him. It's been a while since he tortured someone, and it's a good chance to generously repay the kid for all the trouble he has caused both the principal and Yoichi. As the two discuss this, Iwako's phone rings. He tells Yoichi to leave, assuring him he'll go to the warehouse later to handle it himself. Then the man answers the phone, greeted by a mocking female voice on the other end. She greets him, thanking him for choosing her company during the previous day's bid on materials. Iwako isn't ready to hear her pretentious tone and tells her to drop the act. The person on the other end of the line is one of the Pentagram Saints and the current CEO of the Lille company, Lele Ruaki. She drops the act as he asked and reminds him that they are partners. He charges the monsters with a golden fist, determined to take down as many as he possibly can to change his fate, sharing the government's lovely subsidies. But Iwako is in no mood for her games, for her infuriating mockery, trying to end the call by saying he's busy and they can speak another day. She scoffs. What business could he have with his cushy job as ruler of an academy that endlessly lines his pockets? He mentions Kyoske and his void attribute, which finally piques her interest. She knows the void attribute as utterly useless and questions what Iwako wants with such a complete failure. He concedes that the void attribute isn't worth much, but reminds her that anything is possible since the void attribute is, after all, a unique power. It's painfully obvious to her that Iwako is obsessing over Koichiro Masato's time attribute magic. The principal despises that name, screaming at her with such force that she's forced to pull the phone away from her ear because of the sheer volume. Iwako is still as volatile as ever whenever Masato's name is uttered, but she can't exactly blame him. After all, the moment Misato awakened his time power, he can summon any weapon or artifact just by picturing it. Yet, the results are initially flawed. Even such a broken skill needs to be leveled up, but in the end, though hundreds fall before him, the entire balance of power among adventurers was shattered completely. Having said her piece, she decides to end the call, telling him she will be in contact with him later. Iwako viciously slams the receiver down as soon as the line goes dead. He loathes speaking with her, and he especially detests hearing the name of their former leader. Just the mention has ignited his rage, and it seems the perfect time to unleash all his fury. Iwako proceeds to a secluded forest warehouse, where he and Yoichi typically conduct their torturous business on their victims. Approaching the massive doors, he contemplates how he will break the student. Musing over various torture methods, he couldn't vent his rage on Misato, so he will unleash every bit of it on Kyoske instead. The door opens to a vacant warehouse. Neither Kyoske nor Yoichi are present. As Iwako tries to process what is happening, Yoichi lunges from behind, his sword drawn and aimed straight for Iwako's face. The principal doesn't even glance back, catching the blade between just 2 of his fingers. Thousands more still march towards him. Kneeling in a pool of his own blood, for Yoichi to think such an attack would land, he must have misjudged his principal. A rookie error in any level-up manhwa. Iwako gathers energy in his palm, prepared to teach Yoichi a brutal lesson. If Misato's name angered him earlier, then this pathetic betrayal has driven him into a manic fury. He ensnares Yoichi with magical chains, hoisting him upside down. Then, he kicks his subordinate away effortlessly, sending him crashing to the floor with a pained grunt. Clearly, Yoichi made a terrible choice by challenging Iwako, ignoring their vast difference in strength. Now it is time for Iwako to shatter him and obliterate all his foolish ambitions. But before he can begin, a composed voice echoes from behind him, laughing at how Iwako remains a complete and utter idiot. The principal whips his head toward the sound, and sees Kyoske calmly striding out from the warehouse depths. He continues to mock Iwako, exposing his habit of groveling before the strong, while preying upon the weak. The older man is still just as pathetic and greedy as he has always been. Iwako, still oblivious to who he's facing, tries to assert that he is speaking to the academy's principal. He realizes he has no choice but to accept death. But even in death, he will make sure this isn't the end. But Kyoske doesn't pause. He highlights the fact that Iwako is a hypocrite, because if ever a man was ruined by selfish desire, it was him. This was the last straw for Iwako, and he demands Kyoske's student number for immediate expulsion. Kyoske smiles. The principal still hasn't figured out just who he is. He fought so hard for this one moment, for a final, private chat between them. Iwako, still ignorant of his guest, is now certain he must teach him a brutal lesson in power. He will demonstrate the absolute difference in their strength, starting the attack with advanced earth attribute magic, creating a giant stone fist to obliterate Kyoske in a single hit. Normally, no student could possibly avoid an attack like that. He sends it flying toward Kyoske, who doesn't react. It seems he will take the full brunt of the assault. The attack lands, and Iwako begins to laugh wildly, thinking Kyoske has been taken out so easily. This is the fate of students who dare to defy him. As monsters pile onto him, he desperately ensures his death won't be in vain. The smoke clears to reveal no sign of life, only a warehouse completely destroyed, with nothing left. Iwako thinks perhaps he went too far, destroying the warehouse. Now he'll need to find a new place to torture other people. He never even learned Kyoske's identity, but he can at least watch him die. His job done, he turns to leave, but then he sees Kyoske standing there, completely untouched. Our MC calmly walks out of the wreckage, reminding Iwako that he only wanted a simple chat, not violence. The principal can barely believe it. A mere student was hit by his advanced magic head-on, but still managed to emerge from it completely untouched. There has never been a student so powerful. Now Iwako is no longer curious, he's furious, and he demands to know exactly who Kyoske is. Kyoske smiles and asks Iwako if he still hasn't figured out his identity, after all this time. Iwako, still clueless, tells the student to stop messing around and just reveal his name already. He charges his body with time attribute magic, intending to reincarnate and grow stronger so he can reach his true peak. Kyoske smiles, asking Iwako one more time if he has really forgotten him. That's when Iwako notices. From the way he talks and his mannerisms, this student sounds an awful lot like Misato. The older man starts backing away in fear, not believing that Misato could possibly be back. After all, that man is definitely dead. He made sure of it by locking the portal himself. This must be some sick act by Kyoske, playing a character to look intimidating, like in a level-up manhwa. That is the only logical explanation, because as far as he is concerned, Misato Kuachiro is dead. With that, Iwako charges wind magic in his hand, gathering earth magic to prepare another heavy attack. Kyoske sighs in disappointment at just how little Iwako has changed throughout the years. He has always been this way, only believing what's convenient for him, while ignoring what isn't. Iwako is tired of hearing Kyoske's lectures, and continues to charge up his devastating magic attack. Once reincarnated, he will absolutely get his revenge on them for everything they did. He warns the man that if he comes any closer, he will be hit with a full blast of his magic. The man's motive is now horrifyingly clear. Seduced by sweet promises from those around him, he ultimately ended up betraying Misato. That name is the final straw for Iwako, who hurls a fully charged magical attack at the student. Kyoske counters with a blast of fire magic, completely nullifying the spell with just one swipe of his hand. The air clears as their spells dissipate, leaving Iwako utterly shocked that a student could do that. On top of it all, he used the exact same technique that Misato once used to overcome the gate disaster 20 years ago. There is no way for him to deny it anymore. It has to be him. This is Misato, somehow returned for revenge. Iwako collapses to his knees as he begins to unravel. He's certain they sealed him in the dungeon. Misato should be dead, but it seems he somehow survived. Kyoske confirms that he was truly sealed, trapped, and cast into the depths. All the rage and despair in him will fester until the day he can finally enact his vengeance. Iwako finally accepts this is Misato before him, and the student approaches his crumpled form with a smile, pleased that Iwako finally remembers him. Iwako is so stunned, he must ask again, if Kyoske is truly the dead Misato Koichiro. The principal doesn't wait, rising to challenge him. He cannot believe this is Misato. That man died over 2 decades ago. For him to be here now, he must have returned to this world. He starts charging another spell, meant to bring Kyoske down for good. He fires wind-based magic at the student, but Kyoske easily sidesteps, avoiding the attack. But Iwako allows no rest, sending a massive stone fist crashing down on him. Kyoske still calmly dodges the attack with no real urgency. At this point, Iwako grows angrier that a mere brat is perfectly dodging his attacks without breaking a sweat. His insane growth is like a level-up manhwa. He must gain the upper hand. Because more than the fight is at stake in this battle, it's his pride. With one final push, he activates the time magic, bathing the area in a bright golden light. He was a non-combatant as a golden seeker, and even now, the other pentagram saints still mock him for the coward he used to be. But he never let their taunting stop him. He made sure to prove he isn't weak, and his recent development will finally show off his true, undeniable strength. Iwako raises his hands, gathering wind and earth magic, causing the entire area to darken as magic swirls. This spell is a secret technique he spent 20 years perfecting. More rocks and wind gather in the air, swirling around him, building into a devastating attack. This is the product of him devotedly learning to dual-cast wind and earth magic simultaneously. Once fully activated, he sends it hurtling toward Kyoske. Multiple shots of wind and earth fly from his palm straight towards our protagonist, cutting through the air before striking the ground, causing a huge explosion to completely engulf the student. The magical whirlwind settles and Iwako catches his breath. This is his strongest spell. When Misato opens his eyes again, he's in a younger body, in a strange place, and it clearly took a massive amount of energy to cast. The dust begins to settle, and as it clears, again, there is no sign of Kyoske anywhere within the debris. It looks like Iwako has managed to emerge on top. This time, Kyoske isn't countering, which suggests he has likely been eliminated by the powerful spell. Iwako erupts into laughter, thrilled that he defeated the great Misato Koichiro on his own. He starts to taunt the presumably dead man, asking if he really believed that after 20 years, he would be the same coward he once was in the days of the Golden Seekers. No matter how strong Misato's time attribute is, that is all in the past. And now Iwako is the one who has triumphed. Back then, when great battles erupted, and the Golden Seekers emerged to save the world, all Iwako could do was hide and collect loot drops for the team. But that time was 2 decades ago, and Iwako is not the same person. He mocks Kyoske for underestimating his strength, forgetting that after 20 years, one's power will most certainly increase. He stands from the hospital bed and looks in the mirror. This new body has a younger face and short hair. It is only natural that he became stronger. Now that he has the feat of finally defeating Koichiro, he will make sure that the other pentagram saints no longer act so high and mighty. Now he will start his reign as the true strongest. A voice cuts into his delusional ranting, asking if he is finally finished. Kyoske emerges from the dust, completely untouched, and brushes the excess dirt from his body. After so many attacks, he is somehow unharmed. Kyoske, for his part, is at least slightly impressed that Iwako has become capable of using such powerful magic. That is only to be expected from a hero of this era, after all. But now that he has let Iwako have his fun, it is Kyoske's turn to unleash his anger without restraint. Iwako finally understands the difference in strength between them and realizes the man he is facing is an absolute monster. But he cannot back out now, especially after he worked so hard to get where he is. He won't let Misato come and ruin everything he has struggled so hard to build. Iwako continues to press the assault, using another earth fist to grab Kyoske, like in any level-up manhwa. Fortunately, he inhabits a student's body at a magic academy, giving him ample time to master his power. As he places a hand on the mirror, he knows the reincarnation worked as intended, for now, but our protagonist shows no reaction to another version of the same repetitive attack. The hand comes down on Kyoske and slams shut, but he easily dissolves the earth magic with water. Once again, this entire fight is just Iwako barking loudly while Kyoske waits for him to finish and wear himself out. None of his attacks are going to be sufficient to defeat our protagonist, and at this point, he is just wasting his time. Despite that, he still continues to waste his energy, unleashing endless magic attacks at Kyoske. Even as the student continues to effortlessly dodge and counter everything, he is now desperately trying to keep our protagonist away out of sheer fear. But Kyoske has had enough of this fight. He uses one clean strike to deflect all the magic before it can reach him. He then uses a wind attack to hurl Iwako back, making him slam into a tree. Before the older man can get up, Kyoske approaches with a fire-enhanced fist, ready to bring him down once and for all. Iwako, realizing there is nowhere left to go, cowers before Kyoske, desperately begging for forgiveness. He seems to be in a hospital, but the medicine is unfamiliar. It must have been several years since the incident, Kyoske halts the fire fist for a moment as the man continues to grovel before him, apologizing for the sins of 20 years ago, still groveling for his life. Although he feigns remorse on the outside, he's banking on Kyoske's former empathy to let him off the hook. If he just begs desperately enough, then surely Kyoske will let him leave with his head still attached. But our MC simply tells him to be silent. He sees through the older man's pathetic tricks, knowing this is the same method they used to trap him then. There's no way he would ever let what happened before happen again. It appears Kyoske is beyond begging at this point, and he prepares to end the fight quickly by reigniting his flaming fist. Iwako gets up, continuing to beg, reminding Kyoske that they were once friends, but it is already too late. And our MC tells the man that he no longer has the right to call him a friend. Now, he has only become a demon of revenge. Then, without hesitation, he slams his flaming fist into the man's face and follows with several high-intensity attacks, brutally beating the man within an inch of his life. He hopes it hasn't been too long to get revenge on those who betrayed him. As Iwako starts to lose consciousness, he realizes that he never should have crossed Misato Kio to begin with. Kyoske unleashes one last powerful punch, sending the man flying backward and knocking him unconscious. Despite the brutal beating, he made sure not to end Iwako. After all, he still has some questions for the man. Those questions must wait, though, because the man is completely knocked out and incapable of speaking. After a while, Iwako wakes up to see Kio towering over him. The man immediately screams and jumps back in fear, resuming his pleas not to be killed. Kyoske tells him to calm down, assuring him that he won't be dying yet. But in exchange, there are some questions he needs answers to. Kyoske reaches into the man's pocket and pulls out his phone. The first thing he needs is information about the pentagram saint, Lawaki. Iwako tries to reach for his phone, but Kyoske holds it out of reach. He looks through the call logs, and, according to its history, he spoke with Lei as recently as today. Kyoske demands to know what the two of them were talking about. On a nearby table, he finds a student ID belonging to the body's previous owner. Knowing full well that he will most likely die if he doesn't cooperate, Iwako breaks and reveals that Lei is supposed to be coming to Japan in 3 days, and she wanted to talk about her upcoming visit. Kyoske smiles at the information. In 3 days, one of his targets will be coming right to him. That makes everything so much easier and helps him decide what he's going to do next. With that, he tosses the phone back at Iwako and orders him to treat Lei normally for now. However, he also warns the man not to reveal anything about his identity. Kyoske placed a special spell on Iwako's heart while he was unconscious. The spell will allow Kyoske to monitor him, and if he reveals who he is, then in an instant, Iwako's heart will explode in fire. This causes the older man to freeze in panic as his brain struggles to process the information. With nothing left to say, Kyoske leaves, encouraging Iwako to make sure he keeps his promise. The truth is that Kyoske wields no such magic. But in this grim level-up manhwa he's living, a bluff against a coward like Iwako works just as well as placing the spell on him. He doesn't want to use absolute hypnosis on Iwako because he wants the man to be in complete despair while still retaining his sense of self. Using. The date on the card shows it's been at least 20 years since the incident. 3 days pass, and an inconspicuous flight is on its way to Japan. Lei Ruoxi is on this flight, staring out the window in feigned boredom as her bodyguard informs her that they are almost there. The flight attendant goes to the back, announcing to the passengers that the plane will be arriving shortly in Japan. But before she finishes her sentence, she screams into the mic as chaos erupts. A group of armed men are hijacking the plane, holding the flight attendant at gunpoint. One of the men points his gun at the unarmed civilians, ordering all of them to get on the floor. Lei Ruoxi gets up without hesitation as the men continue to shout, and she walks towards the back of the plane. Then, in an instant, she rushes one of the men and grabs him by the collar, using magic to slam him into the ground before he can react. With one down, she moves to the other holding the flight attendant hostage, knocking him out with a quick palm strike to the face. In a matter of seconds, both criminals are incapacitated, meaning he still has time to find them. The student's name is Asayosuke, with the void attribute at level 1, and the passengers look up to see Lei Ruoxi standing over their unconscious bodies. The plane lands without any further mishaps, and the criminals are escorted away by law enforcement. The owner of the airport arrives personally to thank Lei for her efforts in quickly and silently neutralizing the criminals. Lei is just happy that she coincidentally got on the same plane with the hijackers, so that she would be there to stop them. Thanks to that, they avoided the airline's reputation getting tarnished. More importantly to her, though, it seems the criminals were using a special type of gun that doesn't get picked up by detectors. Recently, many groups have been armed with gear, like in a level-up manhwa, made from materials they got from dungeons. That is why Lei Ruoxi plans to give her staff some of that special self-defense gear. She puts her hand on the owner's shoulder and directly tells him that she wants the security gear his airport uses. Immediately understanding what she wants from him, he bows his head and assures her that he will make sure it happens. Once they are within the airport and away from the earshot of any eavesdroppers, seeing this attribute, Misato laughs maniacally at his luck. In his past life, he was feared by his comrades for being the strongest, Lei makes a phone call and tells the people on the other line to release the hijackers. She was the one who planted the hijackers in order to take them out and save the day. By doing so, she helped seal the deal with the owner of the airport, and even gained some extra publicity as a result. As she leaves the airport, an adoring group of fans are waiting to give their love to her. They all see her as the hero Lei Ruoxi, and she smiles and waves back at them. She makes it to Tokugo Adventurer Training Academy and heads to Iwako's office to discuss business with him. She's still curious about the Void Attribute student that Iwako mentioned earlier, over the phone. She wants to know if any progress has been made investigating the student. Iwako stutters for a moment, but admits that the whole thing was just a false alarm. The bandages and wounds on his face are of no concern to Lei Ruoxi, and she doesn't ask about them. Instead, she gets straight to the point of their discussion. Now that she has confirmed that the Void Attribute student is nothing but a waste of time, Iwako is still terrified about the spell that Kyoske claimed to have placed on his heart due to his time attribute. But as he improved, he realized he couldn't get any stronger, and he desperately tries to appear normal so he doesn't attract any unwanted suspicion from her. Lei Ruoxi puts, she sets her cup down, getting to the main point, a new drug her company is developing. They must choose the next human subject for experimentation, and she wants to use students from the academy for it. Kyoske hears the entire chilling conversation through a hidden earpiece. He's disgusted by the vile things he's hearing, and it solidifies his decision completely. The next person to experience the despair of his vengeance will be Lei Ruoxi. Back at his house, Kyoske watches the news, thinking through his plan. The broadcast covers Lei Ruoxi and her recent arrival in Japan. It also praises her for neutralizing the hijackers who tried to take down her plane. Kyoske is too focused on his plan to care about the media's narrative. Lei Ruoxi is one of those who betrayed him 20 years ago. From the research he managed to dig up, he learned she produces unique weapons using materials from dungeons. Even though his clairvoyance saw everything about the world, and it also appears she has managed to build a fortune from selling them, but judging from her conversation with Iwako earlier, she is likely using the school and its students for her own corrupt purposes. On the surface, she portrays herself as a hero, but behind the scenes, she preys upon others. This is not something Kyoske can simply allow to happen on his watch. He heads to school trying to figure out his approach. Saying he wants revenge on Lei Ruoxi is one thing, but he has no concrete idea how to execute it. The school's security has gotten much tighter since Lei Ruoxi became involved in its affairs, so for now, all he can do is investigate the situation and try to find an opening. As he walks through the halls, Asahi comes over to greet him on her way to class. She notices he's reading an article on Lei Ruoxi and doesn't hide her adoration for the older woman. While they talk, she mentions something called the Great Snake of Chang'an, which is very popular. The Great Snake of Chang'an is a clan Lei created, filled with powerful members, like in a level-up manhwa. Even he couldn't see the Void Attribute's true depth. But now this body possesses that mysterious power. It's likely that the men in black suits who were guarding Lei earlier were also from that clan. Many of the students from the school are also planning to join the clan, or even military organizations. She asks him what his plans are, and initially, he wants to say he has none, but then he realizes that using that clan could be the perfect way for him to get closer to Lei. He makes a decision, and thanks Asahi for helping him figure out what he is going to do going forward, then he walks away. Asahi has no idea what he means, but she's happy to help regardless. In Iwako's office, the principal is handling some business when his phone rings, causing him to jolt up in fear. He picks it up. It's Kyoske on the other line. He needs a favor from Iwako, and it's related to the next time that Lei contacts him. Meanwhile, in a secure research lab, men in lab coats walk around the room while a student kneels on the ground, chained and clearly in agony. The door to the lab opens, and Lei Ruoxi walks in, mockingly asking the boy how he is feeling. The student begs her to make them stop injecting the strange drug into him. This way, he can meticulously prepare his revenge on those who orchestrated his past demise. And Misato almost pities his enemies. The Void Attribute is so rare and unexplored that it is also something that no one even knows how to train. If they continue to do this, then he will surely die. Lei Ruoxi kicks him to the ground, and she tells him to stop his pathetic whining. After all, if the drug trials are successful, he will end up becoming far stronger. All he has to do is continue being their little lab rat. She snaps her fingers, and two of the researchers move behind the student, injecting him with another dose of the volatile serum. The student tries to beg and recoil, but as the drug invades his system, he gurgles and screams before finally falling silent. It appears this time the concoction has destroyed his ability to speak. It seems if the test subject lacks some innate magical skill, the drug is completely ineffective. They still need to gather more data, and for that, they will need to procure more test subjects. To do this, they can hold a recruitment for the Great Snake of Chang'an clan, a perfect front for gathering powerful guinea pigs for their experiments. She makes a call to Iwako, asking if he remembers their prior discussion about test subjects. Right now, it's the cruel reason this boy is still a pathetic level 1, undoubtedly scorned. She needs someone skilled in magic, and she wants him to select some students from the academy for her to use. Iwako instead suggests holding a selection at the academy. That way, they can directly find people who are skilled and bring them in without raising suspicion. Laruaki is delighted by this idea and starts planning the selection immediately. Meanwhile, Iwako ends the call and sighs. He has done what Kyoske asked of him, so now the ball is in our MC's court. The next day, one of Laruaki's guards makes an announcement to the students, informing them the Great Snake of Chang'an will be holding a selection exam to find new recruits. The students are excited for the opportunity to join a popular clan, but Kyoske simply smiles in satisfaction. It seems a path to get closer to Lei has finally appeared. The students interested in joining the Great Snake of Chang'an gather on the school's sports field to take the selection exam to join the clan. Laruaki's personal guard appears, giving a rundown of how the exam will go. As he lists the rules for the competition, for appearing attributeless, while secretly possessing the most powerful one. Now, understanding the grim reality, Kyoske decides he must pass this selection exam so he can join the Great Snake of Chang'an and get close to Lei. His approach this time must be different from how he got to Iwako. This wasn't some simple level-up manhwa, this was a deadly game. He had to catch the attention of Lei's right-hand man, Yang Xinyu, and the other examiners. To do that, he decides to reveal just a fraction of his true power. After the initial announcements, Kyoske heads to the seating area to await the start of the real preliminaries. Asahi finds him resting by the stands and comes over. She reveals that she also plans to take the exam, much to Kyoske's displeasure. He would rather she not get involved in this dangerous mess. Asahi herself knows she doesn't truly belong with the other powerful students taking the exam, but she has her own reasons for wanting to join anyway. She plans to do her best to pass the exam, and she wishes Kyoske good luck. The exams begin, starting with a test to measure one's raw magical power. Misato makes a solemn vow to the boy's departed soul. He will forge this forgotten name into a legend. The guards present a crystalline orb, a device that will visualize the magical power of anyone who dares touch it. Students step forward one by one, pouring their magical power into the orb to be graded on the result. On what appears, the first group of students fails to impress the examiner, who gives out mostly average grades. Then, it is Kyoske's turn, and he proudly steps up to the orb to take his test, his confidence unwavering, flashing his card to the examiner as he passes. The man is not impressed seeing a level 30 void user, and he already expects very little from him. However, his assumptions are obliterated as Kyoske unleashes a torrent, a massive amount of magic, causing the orb to erupt in a blinding light that sears the eyes of everyone nearby. They can barely comprehend his power from this first test alone. As the light fades, Kyoske calmly walks away. The examiner gives him an S grade for the first test. Next is the Magic Skills Test, a student's opportunity to demonstrate what they can do with their attributes. Kyoske generates a simple lump of earth, a basic spell, renowned across the world as the mightiest adventurer to ever exist. Thanks to his clairvoyance, a very basic spell most can perform, but then follows it by creating a ball of pure water, which is shocking, already shocking enough. Afterwards, he finishes with a ball of fire, lightning, and air, and incredibly manages to perfectly hold all 5 elements at once. Those are the basic magic attributes, cast and maintained at the same time. It's an impossible feat no one has ever witnessed. That's the power of the void attribute. A true level-up manhwa moment, long mocked as powerless. Asahi runs over to congratulate him on his incredible performance, but now it is her turn to prove her own worth. She steps toward a patch of dead, dried plants and casts light magic upon them, instantly reviving them with vibrant life. The other students laugh at the fact that all she can do is revive dead plants, nothing special. But Kyoske knows the true, hidden value of her skill. She wields light attribute magic, as rare as his own void attribute, meaning she has the potential to become powerful, just like him. But evaluating her rare skills will be difficult for the examiners. He feels a bit sorry for her. Misato knows precisely how to master the void attribute. With this power, he will rise to become the world's absolute apex. It's better if she isn't dragged into this dangerous mess with him. Unexpectedly, despite his thoughts, Yang Senu marks her name down as a worthy test subject. After all, the exams are finally finished. The last stage is a one-on-one duel with the examiners, who are members of the Great Snake of Chang'an. Naturally, the students have absolutely no chance of winning. But this fight isn't about whether they can win or lose. They will all be evaluated based on how well they fight. Yang Shinu knows there is no way a student could win against them in the first place. Kyoske's turn arrives, and he's set to face one of the toughest-looking examiners in the entire event. He has already caused quite a stir during the exam with all the showing off he did earlier, so the examiner is more than happy to face him and prove his earlier test results mean absolutely nothing. When faced with real combat, Kyoske humbly agrees, stating he is excited to learn a great deal from their fight. The examiner, eager to end this in one hit, creates a massive attack from earth magic, firing off multiple shots. Once he forges this frail, level 1 body into something truly formidable, multiple projectiles at Kyoske. The student immediately blocks it with wind magic and swiftly counters the attack, completely blasting it all back at the examiner. He's stunned that a mere student could shatter his magic with a single blow. Before the examiner can react, Kyoske vanishes, reappearing behind him with a sharp icicle made from water magic pressed coldly to his throat. The winner is declared instantly. Kyoske dominates the examination. Yang Xinyu can't fathom a student defeating a member of his clan, and he starts to question everything, just who Kyoske truly is. Later, he contacts Lele Roiki to debrief on the exam. She asks if he discovered any viable test subjects, and he mentions a particular student of great interest. He passed the exam with overwhelming power, like a level-up Manhwa. He seems to have the void attribute. The moment Lele hears, she realizes this student is most likely the same one Iwako was investigating. Now that she has this confirmation, it appears she has finally secured a most fascinating new guinea pig. He will ensure the traitors from his past life will drown in regret for their betrayal. To exact his revenge, Misato must first get this vessel beyond level 1. In his past life, he dwarfed their power, but now, he is merely a fragile teenager. The void attribute, true to its name, is a magic born from the control of nihil, of nothingness itself. This is what led to his end. On that day, gates to ominous dungeons erupted across the globe. This power allows its wielder to manifest their imagination into reality. While anyone can dream, actually forcing those thoughts into existence is the true challenge. Fortunately for Misato, the body he now inhabits is grievously wounded. This provides the perfect, twisted opportunity to practice his new powers by healing himself. All he must do is impose the image from his mind onto his own flesh, visualizing the slow mending of his injuries. With intense focus, he can envision every single cell in his body being rebuilt by magic. Slowly, he applies this power to his arm first, and the deep, ugly bruise begins to recede. It's merely a rudimentary casting for now, so the recovery speed is agonizingly slow, and he senses the tissue within is not fully mended, but it is undeniably progress. By continuing to mend his own broken body, his level will gradually rise. This is the brutal start to his own personal level-up manhwa. His power to warp reality with his imagination will also sharpen with every use. As he gains levels, it will also expand the scope of what he can manifest from his mind. Through this steady, painful development, and monsters from those dungeons swarmed out. Humanity was helpless against these creatures. He can begin to create a vast array of things, which will eventually unlock access to countless forms of magic. It will reach a point where the images in his mind can be perfectly replicated in the physical world. As he contemplates the terrifying potential of his new power, a doctor suddenly bursts through the door, stunned to see him finally conscious. Misato attempts to rise, but the doctor urgently orders him back down, as he was gravely injured after being mauled by a monster. This is the first Misato has heard of what befell the former owner of this body. The attack must have been horrific, as the doctor is astonished he's even alive. He chalks the miracle up to the blessing of the saints. This is the first time Misato has ever heard the term saints, but to the doctor, this is common knowledge, and he's baffled by Misato's ignorance of her. She is known as the Saint of the Pentagram Saints. But that name means nothing to Misato either. The doctor simply attributes his profound lack of knowledge to having just regained consciousness after suffering such severe injuries, and the only ones who could stop them were those with awakened magical abilities. Among them are the Golden Seekers. For now, he pivots to giving Misato a thorough examination. As the doctor leaves, Misato can't shake he cast the thought of these so-called pentagram saints from his mind. They were likely just another clan that had emerged. During the past 20 years, while he was gone, he must now grasp what has changed in the world he left behind. He grabs a remote from the bedside table and flicks to a news station, which is coincidentally broadcasting a special on the triple S-class dungeon disaster from 20 years ago. This is exactly what he needs information on. He must know what happened after his betrayal. The broadcast names the culprit of the disaster as the Golden Seekers' leader, Misato Kio himself. Misato leaps from the bed, stunned as he sees his own face plastered across the television screen. He has no clue what they're talking about and listens intently. Apparently, the story that circulated was that he predicted the disaster but refused to warn anyone about it. Instead, he was allegedly planning to exploit the impending chaos that would sweep the world in order to seize control and rule it.